From Latin America, we go to Ireland. The story of building a peace process after many times of conflict represents a sign of hope. Today, after Brexit, new challenges have surfaced. It's my pleasure to introduce Geoffrey Corry. He facilitates more than 50 political dialogues workshops at the Glen Creek Center for Reconciliation during the years of the peace process from 1994 to 2006. He has run mediation workshops in Colombia, Israel, and Haiti. Welcome. It's a great pleasure to have your presence, Geoffrey.
Well, thank you very much, and hello from Ireland. It has been a wet afternoon, but just as I came on, the sun began to open again. So, but it's a sad weekend because of the conflict that we have seen breaking out again in Israel, Palestine, and it goes through another cycle of violence. That's what we experienced in Northern Ireland for 20, 30 years. And we call such conflicts protracted conflicts. But some people call them intractable conflicts because they are so binary or so polarized. But you see, Ubuntu people, who we all are Ubuntu people, we cannot name a conflict as intractable. So it is a protracted conflict, and we have to find ways out of that. Usually there is a top dog and an underdog. And in this situation of Israel-Palestine, and to some extent in Northern Ireland, and of course in South Africa, there was an underdog and a top dog. In workshops I have done with Palestinians, they have pleaded for the opportunity for their voice to be heard. If only, they say, if only the Israelis would come into a workshop with us and sit down and hear and understand our hurt, our pain, the situation we have experienced. However, the challenge for any facilitator like me is, how do you get the top dog to come in to the workshop? What have you to do in order for them to come and sit in the same room, and also for us to hear their story as to how they have been affected by the conflict? That, of course, was something that Nelson Mandela experienced all through his life. So the challenge that we discovered at the Glen Creek Center was, how do we do political dialogue? How do we engage the parties together and to sit in the room together? We now know that two major political conditions need to be in place for good dialogue to start. The first political condition is what we now call awareness of a stalemate, a hurting stalemate. And what that effectively means is that neither side, there's a realization that neither side are going to win a complete victory. And so they have to sit down because they can't win. Yes, they might be able to push more military resources in, but in the end, they still may not win. And of course, on the other side, for those who are called terrorists, there is a realization that they may be able to continue the war, but they cannot win the war. So stalemate is a crucial turning point. The second key turning point is to build the arrangements, the political understandings, to get a ceasefire, to stop the violence, to stop the war, so that political negotiations can begin. We were very lucky in Ireland, Northern Ireland, and Britain, that through back channels, through dialogue, secret dialogue, we arrived at a situation in 1994 where the two paramilitary groups, the Loyalists and the Republicans, they agreed to a ceasefire. And so suddenly, the sun did shine at that moment. And I can remember the very first political dialogue workshop we ran at Glencree Centre in October 1994. And it was the excitement, the joy, the thrill of having all the parties sitting in a circle. Often the academics call negotiation getting people to the table, but we discovered, no, you don't have a table. You need to have a circle where people can sit and hear and face each other in an equal way. The circle is a great humanizing and equitable space. And we were able to actually see each other's faces and talk with each other and hear each other's story. So that's my hope. I don't know when it can come for Israel-Palestine, but hopefully one day there is a realization by the top dog that they need to sit down with the underdog. In South Africa, of course, that came with the help of the international community. And it could well be that the very actions of the international community today could help bring about dialogue in a polarized situation like Israel-Palestine. So what did I learn from that period? So if you just put up one slide, please, the technical team, that I could show you from that experience. This is a definition of what dialogue is, building on a thinker called William Isaac. So it's the flow, and that's important because it isn't something that just comes with a speech and a speech, but it's a gradual incremental flow that develops between people, which goes beyond the words, but hears the stories of each side. And so out of those stories come new understandings of the context and the difficulties and the narratives that each group has. And from the understandings come new meaning. And without there being new understandings and new meaning, we're not going to get a breakthrough in the dialogue. And that means layers of emotional connection, layers of thinking together, and layers that come in a natural way in this wonderful word, interactive relationship. Now, what we discovered was, certainly me as a facilitator, was that there are two loops of understanding in the dialogue process. The first loop is where you as the facilitator tries to help people for their story, that I as a facilitator have to hear and understand the story and the issues and the concerns and the grievances and the hurts and the pain that comes from each party. And without that being unfolded, we don't get to the meanings, the layers of meaning and the layers of new understanding. And that means giving sort of equal time to each side and back and forth and as we hear the different layers of those stories. But the breakthrough comes because when your story has been heard, when your concerns, when your hurts, your pain has been heard and understood in the room, in the circle, then that frees you up to be able to turn to the other party and to hear their story in a new way, in a different way. So you have to have this first loop before we get into the important second loop, where we begin to hear at an equal level what one party is saying to another. So you can take down the slide there. Thank you very much. So my hope is that in what we learned, and that has to happen quietly, often in the background, both at multiple levels. We now call it multi-track peace building. What we learned from the failure of the Oslo talks, which was a wonderful breakthrough at the time in the early 1990s, is that it only happened at the top. And what we now have to, any resolution of a conflict has to be at also track 2 and also at track 3, so that we are involving people at the different tracks, not just to the top level, but it needs to be owned by the whole of society. So that means evolving and developing and connecting the dialogues that can happen and unfold at the different tracks. So there you are. That's our learning. That's how, in some way or other, we got a big breakthrough in the Northern Ireland situation between the different parties in the Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland and with the British parties. And it created the basis for that breakthrough agreement, which we know as the Belfast Good Friday Agreement of 1998. Of course, we're having troubles because Brexit has created new polarization. However, in the background, in the back channels, we're actively trying to get dialogue going again to find solutions to what's called the Northern Ireland Protocol. So that's the work in progress. Peace work never ends. It keeps going, and it requires people with hope, people with the ability to bring others together and create this space that people can talk and engage with each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Geoffrey, for your talks and to be with us and share all your knowledge about this topic. Thank you so much.